you're known to be someone who thinks of time, as a perspective. In all your paintings, you look at time in a very interesting way. So maybe tell us a little bit about what is time for you and how do you deal with it in your work? Talk about a couple of your works.
Well, this piece is epilogue. And of course, time recurs amongst other things in much of what I do. Of course, time as we experience it is a domesticated sense of a ticker moment in front of us telling us what we're supposed to do. But this piece, for instance, as you kind of walk into the room, you see a corridor of what appears like an eternal recurrence of an image. And this is every moon that my father saw from the day he was born on 2nd April 1936 till he passed away on 2nd December 1998. So it's about 22,400 moons, every moon of his life that one confronts. But of course, when you step closer to the piece, you actually see this image, which is a lunar cycle. And every image of the moon is replaced by the image of a roti. So a progressively eaten bread becomes a crescent moon. Or an uneaten roti becomes a full moon, and it becomes like a cycle of abundance and dearth, of time, every meal morphing into every moon.
That's interesting. I didn't know. So this is like the entire life of your father kind of, shown through...
Yes, so there are 753 such lunar cycles that my father saw.
Yeah.
And this is one amongst them.
Okay, yeah.
This is
so where it's through a whole corridors, right?
It kind of goes on and on and on. It goes about 5 turns to the point where it comes to the last moon. And in some ways, I had my own doubts about making this piece, whether it would mean anything to anyone else at all. But most people have gravitated to a moon that they recognize as something special to them, and perhaps read something in this narrative in their own life.
So tell us about, there's something you've taken on this year about the Kochi Biennale. Tell us a little bit about it. Why do we need to even have a Biennale here? There is Venice Biennale, there's Biennales everywhere. And why do you feel we need to have a Biennale in India?
We need it for multiple reasons, perhaps. So these are images from the last edition of the Kochi Biennale. And biennials become space of resolutions where artists come and in the process of the exhibition is also the format of the workshop, where, for instance, in the next edition of the Kochi Biennale, 65 to 70% of the works are actually new. So in a way, it really opens out the process of the studio within the exhibition space. And hence, biennials become really relevant for the arts. But I think more widely, ecosystemically, the last edition of the Kochi Biennale had about 400,000 people that came. And right now, the extent of public support is so high, it becomes also a very fertile ground for people to think of the world through the arts.
When you write to artists, what do you write to them? What do you ask them? What is the beginning of that process?
One of the things I felt that the biennial should be the process of actually producing themes rather than reproducing one single theme. It was really a process of trying to see if intuitions can infiltrate the entire project. And my curatorial process then would be to be watchful of the project as it emerges, so that then the curatorial process becomes one of making citations and orienting objects through sightlines. So that becomes a narrative as you walk through the project. But primarily, I think the biennial does, as it's emerging now, what we do almost every day. When you try to see or understand something, we might, hold it close or far in space to see clearly. We might think back and forth in time all the time. We do this all the time. And I think the biennial in some ways becomes an exaggeration of this gesture, whereas going close becomes a proximate narrative, maybe of a neighborhood in Taipei, or perhaps a distant galactic view of the planet from afar, or perhaps going back and forth in time, back to become historical and forth to become an element of the future.
Okay, I have actually a very basic question. Is it biennial or biennale? What is the difference?
Well, it's because the art world is so polylingual. They're all different. The biennial, biennale, biennale have all become, depending on which part of the world you are, you'd call it different things.
So what is it in India?
Well, I think it switches between biennial and biennale.
Yeah, okay. We have that much diversity.
But if you go Spanish speaking, I think it becomes biennale for some reason. Yeah.
Okay. And so, what is the cultural implication of this? So when we were talking about how I was there last year, and the the kinds of people who came was amazing. It was not like some art, aficionados. It was mom and pop and kids and on a picnic, everybody comes. So for you, what is the cultural reflection or cultural implication you would like to see with this?
Well, the audiences were not just amazing in numbers and very varied in terms of demography, but also extremely involved. And I think that was kind of suggestive of the kind of audience that Kochi has to offer, Kerala perhaps has to offer, and concentrically outwards, people came from other states, neighboring states. But this was an engaged audience. People came back multiple times. It's very hard to watch a 4-channel video if you're not accustomed to seeing that. But I had an experience of just 4 artists in the room. We were 4 people from the art world, and the rest of them were 20 people not from the art world. And everyone stayed for 26 minutes to watch an Australian artist's video. And to me, that was really very encouraging. I think of it all the time while I work on this biennial.
So what would you like your signature to be on this? What would you like to have with you?
I would like to see at the end of March what I could not see in the beginning of December when I'm working on the biennial.
Which is actually see
I would like to see what I didn't see in it.
Yeah, wonderful. Thank you very much for all your work.